Welcome to the Holo Health Podcast, where we help you become healthy in every area of your life. What's up, podcast listeners? We are back in the studio, and we are actually in the studio. This is your boy, Trevor Deal. I am sitting down, technically standing up. Alex is sitting down, but he's here with me. Hey, Alex.
Trevor, why do you got to call me out like that?
You're going to be standing for the next 2 hours is what you said?
That's true.
I'm not, so I decided to
That's
stand.
true. The man who literally says, omit to sit, is sitting right now. But
that's attention to manage.
It's attention to manage.
Yeah, and it should be, because that's actually what we're going to be talking about today, Alex.
Trevor, why don't you start off and tell us, what does attention to manage even mean? Why are we talking about this?
Yeah, this is a really good start to the podcast episode, Alex. Listeners, we were just sitting around talking the other day, and we were thinking about attention to manage and how important it is to understand what this means around specifically this time of year. It's important always, but when it comes to the holiday season, Thanksgiving, all the way past into the new year, there's a lot of things going on. We are super busy. More so than the ordinary schedule. And so Alex and I were talking, and I was like, what if we did a podcast episode on attention to manage? And this is something that Alex writes about, that we've talked about. It's a part of True Health. And so we're going to today talk about attention to manage. But Alex, since you're the expert and the author, I actually like how you use your words more than I use my words. So why don't you explain attention to manage for the listeners?
That's a bunch of hullabaloo, but I'll just go with it. Trevor, attention to manage, there's a difference between a problem to solve and attention to manage. A problem to solve is when there is one solution to the problem and it's done after that. Attention to manage is something that when you have two or more things on both ends of the spectrum that you need to constantly tend to depending on that season or depending on that situation. For example, the best tension to manage that most people can relate with is spending versus saving money. If you just spent all of your money, you would have nothing. But if you just saved your money, you couldn't live life because you need to purchase and do things. Mm-hmm. So it's attention to manage. When do I spend? When do I save? How much do I spend? How much do I save? That it's constantly managing those two things. Another one we write about is the tension to manage between nutrition, between nourishment and pleasure. We need to provide our body with the needed nutrients, but we also don't live with complete restriction and never enjoy pleasurable things. So we're managing the tension between nourishment and pleasure. And taking a step back, the reason why this is so important when it comes to Holo Health and True Health in general is because health is attention to manage. The reason being is because health is not just physical. It's physical, mental, emotional, relational, and spiritual. So all five of those make up our health, and all five of those need attention, precision, care, and intentionality. So we're constantly managing the tension between those five areas because, as we know, we believe that we are whole beings, complete beings. Holo means whole or complete in Greek, which is why Holo Health is our name.
Right.
So health is attention to manage, and there's subsets of that. So we're going to talk about 5 tensions to manage over the holidays.
I think it's going to be a good episode, Alex. I love what you're saying. And listeners, this is a key part and cornerstone to Holo Health as a brand, as a company, as a message and mission that we want to communicate. And what I want to piggyback on with what Alex just said is that we're going to talk about attention to manage, but with a problem to solve, if we solve a problem, it should not come back up again. It shouldn't resurface. It should not make its way back into our life. Well, that doesn't work with our health. If I go exercise because I need to move my body and I never do that again, I'm going to experience the problem of physical unwellness. So that means that that example is showing just that one area of our health is not a problem to solve. It's attention to manage.
Trevor, that's perfect, because if you try to solve a tension, you create more problems.
Yep.
Let me say that again. If you solve or try to solve a tension, you create more problems. Think about it. We just talked about spending and saving. If you try to solve the problem of money, you're going to create more problems because you don't just spend, you don't just save, you do both. It's attention to manage.
Yeah.
So that's why we say there's different categories: problem to solve, attention to manage. And the more I learn and the more I get older, the more I realize that life is more attention to manage than a problem to solve.
Literally, there's so many things that are attention to manage. So instead of the listeners just remaining pretty bumfuzzled about what attention to manage is, let's step into the first of our 5 different topics that we're going to talk about to bring some clarity to this.
So the first one is the tension to manage between what is beneficial and what is enjoyable. The tension to manage between what is beneficial and enjoyable. So over the holidays, at least for me, I'm getting invited to way more parties, way more social activities.
You're welcome.
I am going to the Trevor Deal or the Deal's second annual Christmas party, and I'm super excited.
Holiday soiree, not just Christmas party.
That's right.
Yep.
And those things are very, very enjoyable. If all I did was indulged in enjoyable pursuits, sleeping in, watching Netflix, going to Christmas parties, and never prioritized what was beneficial to my health, then I would end up in I would decrease levels of health, whether significantly or very small. It would still decrease.
Right.
So I can't do that, but I also can't say no to all those things because health is more than physical. Health is more than eating clean and working out, but I still need to work out. I still need to get sleep. So it's attention to manage. So realizing, okay, what is the most beneficial thing to do, but also how can I go to this party while still benefiting my health?
Yeah. And Alex, even to keep going with that, I think what's important to remember is that we believe there are 7 habits to a truly healthy life.
Yeah.
And those habits, there is something in there about cultivating community. There's also something in there about moving often. There's also something in there about sleeping well. I could go on for the whole 7. I'm not going to because our listeners know what that is. And the important thing is that we need to understand that each of these areas or each of these habits feed and nourish the different aspects of our health. And like you're saying is if I choose to never engage in some of these extracurriculars specifically around the holiday just because I want to sleep more, or just because I want to be able to eat exactly what I can create or maybe even work out some more, I'm losing opportunity to invest in my relational health or even your physical and mental health. It's all tied together as we talk about. So I think this is important, listeners, to remember is that this is not creating or totally altering your routines and habits. This is looking at something as an opportunity to invest in other people, and it's I would say extremely important for your relational health this holiday season.
Here's what I would say to this one. Win the day. Decide what is the win and prioritize it above all else. Win the day. So, for example, on Friday, I am coaching, I am working out, I am spending time with my family, but I'm also going to this Christmas soiree.
The second annual Deals Holiday
Yes.
Soiree.
What is the win for me? The win for me is to enjoy fellowship and community at this party. So I'm going to go and I'm going to enjoy yummy food because I know that I've also prioritized my health and worked out and ate clean and gotten nutrients before that. And I'm also going to coach and go to the gym the next day. So I'm not going to completely restrict. I'm going to win the day by choosing what is enjoyable in that situation.
Yeah.
So win the day. Let's keep moving to number 2.
Let's do it.
The second tension to manage is training versus maintaining.
I think I can get this one.
Trevor, there's a tension in the holiday season as things get busy and slowing down and parties and off work between training and maintaining. Trevor, give us the 60-second version on what this tension is.
Yeah, the 60-second real quick pitch here is that you more than likely will not be able to make significant strides for your overall fitness. We're talking about just purely fitness during the holiday season, and the likelihood that you're going to do, or the reason behind why that's more likely to happen, is you're out of your routine. You're probably traveling. You're probably not at your gym, whether that's at a Globo gym or at the CrossFit gym, wherever you may work out, your garage. You're not in your routine. You're not able to do what you're typically doing. And what a lot of people face is this tension of like, man, I wish I was doing, my usual stuff. Well, you have an opportunity to be with family. You have an opportunity to be loving on people and spend time doing things that you don't always get to do. So the reality is that you can still do something. You can still intentionally move. You can still intentionally do something for your fitness, and understand that by doing that, by choosing to do what you can during this holiday season, you can maintain your fitness. And that's a better approach and mindset towards that, right? Instead of, I need to train and I can't train how I want to. but I can maintain my level of fitness by doing what I can with what I have. So that's kind of the brief, I would say probably 70-second breakdown on that piece.
Nailed it. The tip for this tension is the reminder that you will not be in your peak fitness every season.
Yep.
Now, this is for the general population. For other ones that are training for a specific purpose, that's different. But for this, you will not, for example, I am not in my peak fitness right now. And I've surrendered that to Christ, saying, hey, there are other more important things. I'm still prioritizing my health. I attended the 8:30 class today, but I know that I'm not in my peak fitness, and that's okay, because once some of the things kind of settle down, I'm going to ramp back into it. Not to say that's all or nothing, or I'm waiting till January, or that mindset, but I've realized that health is a tension to manage, and I'm not going to be in the peak fitness every single time. I'm more in the maintaining side, but I'm going to come back to the training side in a couple weeks here, and that is okay.
And y'all watch out when this boy does. Number 3 of our 5 different things is going to be time together versus time alone. Alex, this one's pretty straightforward. Will you crush this one for us?
There's a tension to manage between being alone and being with people. And depending on if you're more introverted or extroverted, this would resonate differently with you. But like we said, with the parties and with the family, or even just your nuclear family or your friends, there's a lot more extracurricular things that are going on. That is good. We need to cultivate community. We need to be real. We need to go deep. We need to have those people in our life. But we also can't do it at the expense of being alone. But some people will just stay at home and not do anything, and might just go see family on Christmas and then come back just because the holidays they can just take a break and never cultivate community. This is a tension to manage always with habit number 6, cultivate community, because life done together is better, but we also need that time alone. So the tip for this one is to fill your cup. Mm-hmm. Fill your cup. Some people might fill your cup more alone. Some people might fill your cup more together. And that is just the way God wired you. That's not right or wrong. It's just the way God wired you. But just to be aware, okay, I need to be with people and I need to be alone. For you, it might be 70-30. For me, it might be 60-40, whatever that is. But right. Realizing that I can't only be alone, I can't only be with people, and just finding that balance that works for you to fill your cup, mm-hmm. We need to be aware of that tension.
Yeah, that's great. That's great, Alex. We'll go ahead and hit number 4 as we're kind of rounding third here. This one is being on versus being off. This can apply 100% outside the holiday season, but we're going to just specifically talk about the holiday season. A tension that we face to manage is our focused time working, hosting, getting stuff done versus just enjoying time with family, slowing down, and maybe just not even doing anything at all. And I know that I struggle with this, Alex, that you do as well. And this is something that we have to be intentional about and say, hey, these are my dedicated times and hours to be on, per se. And this is what I'm going to be off. And that doesn't mean you're shut down and you're hibernating, obviously. Maybe you will sleep. But the being off part is that I need to leave work where it is, and I need to be where I am, and I need to be present. And I think that's something that a tension that you're going to face, listeners, this Christmas is, I know there's things I need to be doing for work. I know that I could stay 30 minutes later or an hour later. But what if I went home, and what if I was with my wife or with my family or with my friends? And so facing that tension to manage is going to be important. And just the straight tip for here is just keep the most important things the most important things. I promise you work's going to be there, whether you leave it after 3 hours or you leave it after 4 hours. Alex, hit number 5 for us.
Last one we'll talk about, and I will do a shameless plug that I actually write about this in my book that is coming out called Health is Freedom. And this, I call it the True Health Paradox. And simply put, the True Health Paradox. A paradox is something that seems counterintuitive or not counterintuitive, seems like it's counter, what's the word I'm looking for? Opposite, counter, there's some word I'm looking for. That seems like it doesn't exist, but they're actually both true. Two realities that exist that don't true. That's a paradox. Yep. So the True Health Paradox is living in the should without living in shame. That's simple. That's the most clear definition, is living in the should without living in shame. Because here's the question, Trevor. What do you do when you don't do what you should do? What do you do when you don't do what you should do? So, for example, when it comes to true health, there are many shoulds that we do, shoulds that we should do. We should get 8 hours of sleep. We should eat whole, clean, real foods. We should live authentically. We should believe the best. We should cultivate community. There's a lot of shoulds that we do, but let's be honest. We don't hit every should every single day.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
That's hullabaloo.
So what do we do when we don't hit that should bar? We don't live in shame. We allow God's grace to fill the gaps.
Right.
Because here's the biblical truth behind it. Jesus, when he came in the flesh, he was the full embodiment of truth and grace. It's John 1:14. He came in the fullness of truth, and he came in the full embodiment of grace and truth. Truth says you should get 8 hours of sleep. You should care for the orphans and widows. You should pray without ceasing. You should never take your eyes off the perfecter of your faith. There's a lot of shoulds in the Bible.
Yeah.
But what do you do when you don't do what you should do? What do you do when you're scrolling Instagram knowing that you should probably be reading the Bible plan for the day? You don't allow shame into the picture because you allow God's grace to fill the gaps. That's the grace. So God holds the should bar high for us. Whether it's the 7 habits of health, whether it's the spiritual disciplines, whatever that is, he wants us to become more like him, made in the image of Christ. That's the should bar. That's what we should do. But when we don't, he's not in heaven with his arms crossed saying, shame on you. He has his arms open saying, hey, my mercies are new every single day.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. 2 Corinthians 12:9. Verse 9, says, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. You said it great there, Alex. It's that we understand that when we don't do what we should do, there is grace. But that doesn't remove the tension that we still face to choose what we should be doing.
Exactly.
And so that really puts a really good cap on those 5 different things. Really quickly, the tension to manage the different aspects that we talked about today was beneficial versus enjoyable. So our tip there was win the day. Second was training versus maintaining. The second tip there was you will not be at your peak fitness in every season. Third was time together versus time alone. Our tip for you was fill your cup. Being on versus being off was number 4. Our tip was keep the most important things. And then the 5th one was the true health paradox. And the tip is live in the should with none of the shame. And so these are 5 different attributes that we can really use, or the listeners, I hope that you really take away to understand what attention to manage looks like and are helpful this holiday season. Alex, you got 30 seconds. Leave the listeners with something that hopefully doesn't leave them bumfuzzled.
God's grace fills the gaps always. When you are striving or trying to hit something, or you want to make Christmas perfect, or you want to perfect your workouts, or you want to have it all look like you have a bow on everything, but you don't hit that level, don't allow shame in the equation. Shame at the root of shame is a lie, and at the root of lie is the father of lies called the enemy, and he wants to tell you, oh, what you did is bad, you're not good enough, but there's no truth found in that God's grace fills the gaps and his mercies are new every single day. So enjoy the slow. Be aware of the tensions, be aware of what to prioritize, fill your cup, win the day, but realize health is attention to manage. Keep the most important things, and God's grace fills the gaps.
Yeah, listeners, we hope you have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. This will be airing before Christmas, so we really hope you enjoy that time. Remember that the holidays are attention to manage. Your health is attention to manage. Please, please, please listen to this episode. If it's beneficial, share it with a friend. Leave us a rating. Drop a follow on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We want to continue to bring as much value as possible to our community, and we're so grateful for you guys. So
we got a couple really cool, exciting things in January. This will probably be our last podcast of 2023 in December, but come January, we have a couple cool interviews on the podcast lined up. Our book that I'm so excited about, the integration between health and faith, how pursuing Jesus and pursuing a truly healthy life are connected and what we can do about that. And our 4-week program with that is coming out. So stay tuned. We have some amazing things coming up and we cannot do it without you. We do it for you. So thank you guys so much.
Alex, what do we always say?
You're a legend.
See y'all. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you want to learn more, check us out on social media or visit us at holohealth.com to learn how you can start living a truly healthy life today.